I'm going to hit record then and kind of begin the content section of our Monday Mastermind today. So welcome out again, everyone, and happy to have Jamie Sheppard willing to share with us this morning. As I was thinking about a lot of the dialogue and things that I've been having with coaches lately, a lot of it has centered around leading people. It surfaces often, and it's not always a direct discussion on leading people, but it always seems to center around, I'm doing everything I can to influence my coaches or influence my downline to, do what they say they're going to do, or to rally towards a team goal, or how can I better, influence people to, rally around, what we're trying to accomplish or fulfill their own goals. The whole aspect of not being a manager, not being able to have an employee relationship with your coaches and just be like, well, you have to do this much inviting and you have to do these many follow-ups or else you're fired. We can't do that in this line of business. And so it's what makes this position, with all of its, benefits and challenges, one of the main ones is leading people and developing, a leadership culture, on the team that oftentimes, we come into this business not understanding that that's going to be a role that we're going to take on. And one of the things that I admire about you as coaches is you always seem to find a way to improve yourselves, to learn new lessons, to stay current on, personal development and leadership development, techniques, and people that are sharing, thought leaders that are sharing, their skills and principles for leadership. And as someone that's been in the business for a long time, or coaches that have been in the business for a long time, it's interesting to see sometimes, there's the ebb and flow of the business, and times when it seems like you're in momentum mode so that it's easy, and then times when nothing seems to be, working right. And one of the things I admire about, the people on this call, and I'm really proud of, especially of what Jamie's been able to do recently. I've been working with her for over 3 years now. She's been a coach for, 5 plus years, and to be able to see her, develop and be able to, create this 15-star diamond qualification team, this far, into the business, this far into having a team and team culture where she could have taken her foot off the gas, or maybe had people that have came in, fallen out, and she's had all of that. And in the middle of the freaking summer, when there's all the excuses, not to be able to, to keep people in qualification or push things forward, she's figured out a way to do it. And so I wanted to pick her brain a little bit today on some of the recent leadership lessons that she's learned, throughout the summer, and what are some of the little things she's been able to do with her team and team culture that have been able to rally, this push to 15-star. And I know, Jamie, you still have 4 more weeks to stay in qualification. And so that'll be a fun job. There's people, but anyway, going to turn the time over to you to, share some things that lessons that you've learned recently. And of course, hopefully everyone has something to add or questions to ask, and we'll get some edification today. So Jamie, I'm going to turn the time over to you.
Okay. Well, hi guys. It's so funny because my husband was here, and he was like doing stuff downstairs. So he's always here on the Monday calls, and he's like, I'm going to go work out. But then he kept stalling for an hour, and I'm like, leave, go away, I need you to leave. He's like, why? I'm like, well, I've got my call. He's like, I'm always here for your call, I usually listen. I'm like, I don't want you listening. I'm speaking. I got really nervous, and then I heard him downstairs, and I'm like, no, I'm serious. You need to leave the house. So anyway, I appreciate you asking me, Craig, and it actually kind of pushed me to stop moving and sit and think, because in the last few months, as we've kind of gone, I was a lifetime 7-star in my first CBC for the last 2.5, 3 years. And then I think I've been 5 most of the year. And then we got to 9, and then we kind of rallied up to 11, and then rallied up to 12 in the second quarter. And there was a lot of momentum being created around TV mindset is really what I think a lot of the catalyst was, because we saw so much growth, and we're like, okay, how can we funnel this growth into these coaches that have been around that have never stopped working, but they've never really tried to stretch, and or they have, but they've never seen like fruition from those efforts. And like, how can I kind of like get my hands dirty with them and turn this into a level up opportunity for them to build some confidence? And that has trickled down into this momentum and this morale boost. Not that we were really struggling in any of those areas, but it just kind of sent this ripple effect of like, you can do it, I can do it, we can do it, to a lot of coaches that have been around for a long time. Like, I think 4 of my new diamonds this year have been around for 4 years or more, and they hit diamond for the first time. And like I said, a couple of them have kind of been in and out. Like, I'm gonna go, I'm all in for a month, and then they disappear for 6. But then there have been some that have been this, they've been a free group guru. They've run great challenge groups. They usually hit Success Club 6 and stop. Like, their bar has been really low. And I think it's kind of, it's that law of the lid that John Maxwell talks a lot about, that I think has been really at play in my business, my own personal growth for the last year. As like Craig mentioned, I had a lot of loss on my team. Not a lot, but some key loss. Like, some leaders leave last year that needed to leave. Like, we kind of shed some real negative, almost cancerous energy, where there was like this weird energy around that kept us from being a whole unified, healthy team. And of course, it was hard to lose diamonds. It's hard to lose leaders, but ultimately it was kind of like those infected septic appendages that were just kind of pulling all of our all of our energy to kind of keeping those appendages alive. So 15 star is just, I think, an example of where we are as like a healthy unit as a team. I've actually realized in the last month that I don't personally give a crap about 15 star, like the title of it. Like, I realized I'm like, I don't really care about being a 15 star coach. It's always sounded great. It's been on my vision board. And I don't say that as like, it's not something I'm working hard for. It was more what we are doing as a group. And it was more the fact that it woke me up, and I'm like working my butt off. So because the team has rallied around this, it made me really come to terms with the fact that I'm very money motivated. That's what's fueling me right now, is this bonus. As like, for me, the rest of it, all the rest of the energy that I'm pouring into it is because my team, like the girls, have just owned it. They're like, we want to be a 15 star team. We want to do this. We want to like show the world like we are a top team. And for a long time, I shouldered that burden alone. Like, if we want to be a top team, I need to be a top 10 coach. But I had this internal struggle. Like, I didn't want to be a top 10 coach because I didn't want to live to that level. Like, I didn't want to work that hard. And that sounds terrible, but I know like how much you have to work to get there. And I know what that will do to my own psyche, my own health, my own mental health, and just my own quality of life. And with how unorganized I am, like, I think some people probably do it with so much more grace and structure than I do, but I can sit down and it'll take me 3 hours, but it will take a lot of coaches like 15 minutes because I'm just too ADD. So I just knew that about myself. And there's that ego of me that's like, no, I want to keep growing, but then I've been really comfy. I've, Elite 4 times, like I've worked hard every year, but it was easy, like easy enough that I knew I could do it. I knew we would do it. It wasn't like this big stretch thing. And then as I saw, and I think I was a little scared for a long time to like push people too hard to like go to this next level, in terms of like, if they weren't wanting diamond or getting diamond on their own, that they were just, I didn't believe, it wasn't that I ever stopped believing they were capable. I just didn't want to push a goal on them, because I had also learned that lesson the hard way of like projecting my goals onto my coaches, because then it's about me and not them, and then they don't own it and they burn out or they get bitter or the narrative is rewritten and it's like about me forcing something on them, and like all of those things I kind of carried around like my own like martyrdom, right? And so I just kind of let it go, and I'm like, I can control me. I'll just keep doing what I do, and like if people rise up, they rise up. And so seeing but at the same time, like I knew I needed to keep stretching myself. So last spring, like a year and a half ago, I've been really good friends with like Courtney and Kristen and Ruth and Kim Lima. Like we made this little like subgroup of it. We called it our superstar group. Like we had a little push group all last year for 15 star, and it started right when Ruth Straumer was qualifying for 15 star, because it had been a while since someone was qualifying for 15 star, like when she hit it. And so we were like, you know what, we need to go for big goals. And so we started this little push group. I think it was last spring. Kristen, you can remind me if my timing's off. But as I sat there and I was looking at my downline and I was really evaluating, like, is this possible? I realized that, like, it wasn't something I could force to happen last year. And I even said, like, if 15 star happens, it won't happen until next summer or even by the end of 2018, because we weren't quite there. But I forecasted out there, and I kind of made a plan of attack to get there. And I didn't know that 2B Mindset was going to happen. I didn't know that 2B Mindset was going to be as great as it was, but it was that breath of fresh life into, you know, and it's the speed of the leader, speed of the pack. 2B Mindset was what I needed, because I've never been never followed. I did in the Shift Shop test group. I followed that one to a T. And then I did 80-day obsession. But I probably would have struggled finishing that with time nutrition. So luckily I was given the gift of 2B Mindset throughout that. So it was like I've never been a coach, and so therefore I don't have a team of people that have like rocked our programs, like that do them start to finish, that share the results. Like we've kind of had a more team focused, community focused, internal transformation focused team that's grown over the years. And that was something that's just my truth. That's like our team reality. And so 2B Mindset was we're really heavy on the ultimate reset on our team because of that. And so 2B Mindset kind of fit in that. And a lot of people were able to just sink their teeth in and rally around it. And so that's where we were going into the summer. You know, I've been actually really weepy this last couple of days about John McCain. Like, it sounds really weird. Because he wasn't someone I voted for. But it's been a really interesting reflection. We watched this documentary last night about him that's probably going to air 15,000 times on CNN for the next month. But his quote, and that's something I wrote down to share today, was like, I've had the good fortune to spend 60 years in service to this wondrous land. It has not been perfect service, to be sure, and there were probably times when the country might have benefited from a little less of my help. But I've tried to deserve the privilege as best as I can, and I've been repaid 1,000 times with the adventures, with good company, with the satisfaction of serving something more important than myself, and of being a big player in the extraordinary story, a bit of a player in the extraordinary story of America. And I'm so very grateful. And I honestly, like, I was crying when I heard that read and the clip of him saying that. And I realized, like, I feel the same way about coaching, like, so the same way. Like, I'm not always the best leader. I often make the wrong choices and misstep as a leader, but I'm so very thankful for the friendships and the community and the growth and the adventure, just this little slice of the world that I get to serve. And I just feel really thankful for people like that continue to, you guys know me, like, I'm pretty dang liberal, like, but I appreciate his ability to reach across the aisle. And I've, like, the last 2 years, as we've had a really hard time in our government, like, I've been so thankful that, like, there was a voice of sanity from that side of the aisle, in my opinion. Like, that was how I felt. And I'm like, okay, how can I be that, like, voice in my own way, because I feel like sometimes, and that's where this leads into where the summer has been, like, sometimes we get so focused on the negative in our community, and, like, one thing will be like, all these great things will be going right, and then it'll just be about, like, this one thing that's not going right. And I think that's a normal human condition, and I think we're not immune. Every business is going to experience that, but sometimes it gets really hard to, like, rally around all the good stuff when it's like the voices I hear are, like, complaining about X, Y, and Z, and then it's like this negative bandwagon. So we're coming into Summit at this really great, on this high with, like, going into 12 star, getting that 10 star bonus. And then Sean Aker spoke, and all this great stuff was happening in my business. But you guys, the last 6 months have been, like, the hardest of my life personally. Like, I felt like I've just been imploding, and I'm not going to cry, but it's just been really hard. And I'm thankful for the business because it's kept me like real focused and grounded, and it's given me a safe place. But it's also, and I was like, okay, at least I've got this to focus on. And it wasn't that I was avoiding the stuff that was going on in my life, but this can be a bit of an escape, right? And it can be a way to kind of not do your work on yourself or whatever's going on, because it can be all consuming. And I think and it wasn't, none of this stuff is because of my business, which that's, other points in my life, I think I've let this business create issues, but this was all like immune from business. And so going into Summit, I actually had listened to a podcast. I want to say it was the Lively Show, but she had a guest speaker who was a positive psychologist, and she like has a private practice where she does counseling with positive psychology, and she's kind of a life coach. And I was like, oh, I think I need this. Like, I think I need someone that is not going to help me like pick off scabs of my past, but like help me. So I actually had reached out to her, and the week before Summit, we had a meeting. But then I got like a really bad bacterial infection, and I was like almost too sick to come to Summit. And so I had to cancel it. But then Sean Aker spoke, and he's talking about positive psychology. And I just was like, I cried through that whole keynote, because I was like, God is giving me what I need to hear right now. And I think I posted in the roundtable afterwards, like, I think he changed my life. Because I felt like there's this fundamental shift in me from listening to him. It was a sense of validation. I think there was this level of like everything I've always kind of done, because I've always kind of done this business my own way, a little different, a little, like, which is great, but I don't know that I followed kind of the beaten path always. And I felt like there was this little bit of a validation of like, okay, you're onto something, Jamie. But also it was this call to action. Like I felt like I was kind of getting called out to myself to like wake the F back up, because I'd gotten too complacent and I'd gotten too comfortable just like going through the motion. Like I barely worked Q1 because I was focusing on other things, and I needed to be able to do that. Like I needed to be able to like plan a yoga retreat, and the pageant was like just a random thing that came up, but I needed to be able to kind of let go of some things. The business being my only thing in my life, and like cultivate some other aspects of myself. But I think it was this opportunity to like wake up and realize like me being complacent has made my team complacent. Like me just getting comfy, not that I've ever stopped showing up. My husband will challenge me. He's like, you've never stopped working. I'm like, no, I know I haven't stopped working, but I've stopped pushing people. I've stopped getting into the dirt with them. Like I've stopped really rallying and giving them the rally cry. Like I've just, like we're this great, cozy, loving, like vision focused community, but like, what are we rallying around? What are we rallying for? Like my team hears me say a lot, like, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And so it's like, what are we standing for right now? And so I kind of binged out on Sean Aker in June and July. Like I watched his Oprah sessions. I like watched his TED Talk, which was pretty much the same thing he did for us, and then we did a team book club. We do a book club every month. That's a team book club. That we read the Happiness Advantage, and I've been listening to that because I think I need to just go like read it so I can actually like highlight stuff, but I listened to him on Audible. And so a lot of what I feel like has come about, and there was already a momentum going into this, so it wasn't like everything's happened since the Happiness Advantage, but I feel like a lot of what that triggered in me was I can like funnel it back to the Happiness Advantage. And so I wanted to speak to some of that, but like some of the things that the Happiness Advantage kind of identifies is like success. So like example, success orbits around happiness is one of his principles. Success orbits not around happiness, not the other way around. And I think what a lot of that book, the first time listening to it, it was my calling out to myself, like it was like, okay, some of it was stuff I needed to hear from myself. And then some of it was stuff I needed to hear as through the lens of a leader. So, and because I've been struggling I mean, I'm not an unhappy person, but I haven't been happy. Like it's been hard. And so I had to really start looking at, where am I happy and not happy in my life? And what am I doing intentionally to improve that? And then but then the next level is like, how am I prioritizing my team's happiness? Like, in what ways am I challenging them to cultivate happiness in their own life? Because I think the first couple years of coaching, I almost didn't let my coaches be happy, because I was like, no, you got to just grind if you want to get to this level of success. Just so messed up of me. But I felt like, because that was what I had to do to get there, I like just kind of, that was the message I kind of had to, like, I kind of chose to pursue. And so what are those things that make us happy? And it's just been really challenging them to go and like unplug, go hiking, go swimming, spend their time with their family, make those non-business hours really non-business hours. And then the rest of the time, we're going to multitask, and it's hard to, but I'm going to take those 2 to 3 to 5 hours, whatever you need it to be, and like completely unplug, like turn your phone off. And like, if that's what you need to like be happy. And so, and from that, once you kind of get to that happy, healthy place, let's rally around a success-oriented goal. And it was actually at Summit when the 15 stars walked by, like my leaders were like, they told me later, they're like, we were like, what are you going to be walking up there, the 15 star? Like, and it was at dinner after that. And I was like, well, I don't know. Like, we're not I just kind of was like, I don't know. We're not like quite there yet. And they're like, well, who would need to happen? Like, who would need to go diamond to like get us to 15 star? And so we were talking through, and a couple of the girls, I'm like, well, and as a joke, a couple of like non-emeralds, I was like, well, I'm Jessica and Stephanie. And they're like, wait, I count? I matter? And so it was just, this great opportunity to be like, okay, well, let's just be clear, like, who matters, and if this is something we want to pursue. And so we rallied around 15 star, and it was something that they kind of threw out there, but everyone had an idea of, they're all invited, posted to my PS page. I'm like, if you want to know if you count, or if you want to know where you land in this, like, I'll be happy to tell you, but this is like, let's go all in on this. And just, we made it really clear that was what Q3 was going to be about. And then from there, on our leaders call, I'm like, okay, let's turn this into not something about me, because I feel like that's great that you all love and care and want to like rally around this, but I don't want it to be about me, because I know the flip side. I know the other side of that penny. And so let's turn this into a way to build star diamonds. And so throughout this Disney trip, because most of the time I reinvest bonuses back into, the bulk of them back into the team. I'm like, we'll do a fun Disney trip, like all expenses, whatever. But then I want you to own this, and then invite your team to come to Disney. Like, turn this into
Jamie, I want to draw a principle out of this then, like, the story of it is awesome, but I feel like there's one thing that just kind of stood out to me from a principle standpoint was when those coaches that were maybe just kind of in it, part of the community, were happy when they discovered that they had a role in something that was like meaningful, that was important to the team, when there was that really direct connection, when they discovered like, oh, I matter in this, I can have a goal that contributes to the success of something larger. When that was called out to them very specifically, it sounds like that's when they made the decision, their ambition was sparked to act. Is that a fair summary of kind of what happened with some of those people, and maybe a learning point that you hadn't experienced before?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely what happened for a lot of them. And then some of them were, because I've placed a lot in secondary and Jamie's CBCs, and they're like, well, do I count? And so I was able to explain, like, well, not necessarily the 15 star, but this is how you help our overall like elite goal, or just keeping the energy high. And so I kind of gave everyone like something to grab hold of that wanted to rally around something.
Whether they were part of the 15, didn't matter. Yeah. Like, they may not even understand the relevance of it, but you gave them a meaningful attachment to the team goal that gave them purpose in striving for advancement.
Yeah. And then I prepared them for the fact that summer is like the hardest time of year to do this. So I was like, I think this is when like our efforts are going to have to be 10x this summer. Like, are you willing to give this more than you would normally give this in the summertime. And they just said yes. And they have. And so, from that, like, you know, another Shawn Achor principle is happiness is the cause of good health, not the result. And so that was another, I mean, it kind of goes back to that number one point, but it's like, how accountable are we being to our own health? And so we just really have rallied around, continue to like push TV mindset. And like at post summit, I delayed the launch of Lift 4 intentionally until after summit, because it was just like we were still riding the 2B train and it was just too much. But then like we've really had a fun summer like with Lift 4, and then continuing to cultivate that PD, but also like challenging each other. We have a self-care Sunday thread every weekend now in our team page, like who's going and taking care, and they challenge each other. If they see it, and then on the calls, if they hear that someone's at the edge of breaking, they're like, you need to go and like go for a walk with your husband. Like, so they're like, you should go for, you know, they know what everyone's love language is, and they're like, why don't you go and like take a nap? You know, like they're challenging each other to like make sure they're taking care of themselves.
That's
knowing
super cool, Jamie.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, it's cool that they've all jumped in and are contributing, you know, in that way. Hey, we need to wrap in about 5 minutes. So I just had a couple more points you want to be sure to hit on, or if you wanted to open it up for any like questions or comments, but I've got to wrap in 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and so I think, and that's the beauty of it, is that everyone's been involved in this. So we have, it started with 9-star, but every time we've gone qualifying, I've created a message thread with those coaches that are part of the qualifying, and then any of my other diamonds and secondary CBCs, they also have been part of that, so they know they're part of that qualifying spirit. And then every Saturday morning we still do our leaders call at 8 a.m. But at 7:30 I'll get on if anyone wants to open their drill down and talk through fires, talk through strategy, and teach them how to click on each coach and anticipate when their orders are going through. We talk about the difference of, you know, just really being intentional and clear about preventing drops, like, you know, knowing that they're going to have to keep growing through their diamond rank so that they don't drop, knowing, like, understanding there's going to be attrition. And so we're really intentional and loud about that. And then they screenshot Saturday their drill down, they screenshot Tuesday their drill down, and then Wednesday we do one more check. And we've been doing that all year. And now they'll be sending pictures even when I'm like, we don't really need pictures of your drill down. We don't need like screenshots. They're like, it's just my habit now. And they'll they're constantly checking. And if someone's got a fire or they're struggling, everyone pitches in ideas. Like if someone's going to show up red for inactive, they'll share scripts. I mean, and it starts with me. Like I'll kind of share, like, because this is how I approach it. But everyone's really owned this together. And they know that, like, if you're quiet in there, we're going to come figure out why you're not saying, are you solid or not? And then having this Disney trip in December has been a fun rallying point, because they've got their coaches, you know, that are growing onto that. So we've continued to do, I mean, I haven't changed a lot in terms of what I do, like with system-wise. Like we're still doing Emerald, Double, Triple Emerald. I still have my cohorts. Like new coaches are in pods. We still do a collective. You know, last summer we switched, which we are no longer Team Wild Rain. We've been Wild Rain Collective for a year now, to really, like, I had them all shut down their team pages. The ones that really wanted to buy into this collective model, like, we leaned back in, and I took the burden of responsibility off of a lot of them, because I found that, like, pushing them out of the nest, like, it's too much sometimes. Like, it's too much to, like, run their own team page, run their own challenge groups, run their own everything. Some people weren't ready. Some people just didn't have the bandwidth. Some people didn't have the skill set. And so we've pulled everything back in to a team model. They still will run their own, like, challenge groups, but often a lot of those diamonds are in my bigger challenge group. We do, like, they do their recognition for their specific team in our team page. Just stuff like that. They have a PS page, but that's about it. So that when they have a leadership lesson to share or a nugget, they're sharing it in our collective page so that everyone benefits, and that it's not like 10 of us saying the same message. We know that, like, you know, that Nikki said it. We can, if I need my coaches to hear it, I can tag them in Nikki's post. And then everyone's still owning that ego piece where they're like, I still want to be my own. I want to have my own team. Like, I nudged them to, like, still brand their team, you know, give themselves a team name, but not having, like, the fun stuff of it, but without the maybe burden of it, because some people, it was just why, like what, like I had to stop and think like, well, why? Like, how is that? Is that a necessary part of being a leader in our network? Is that you like leave the nest and you like are alone? I don't think so. I decided no. So we've just really like leaned back in. We have a lot of free community stuff. Like we have a team free book club, a virtual book club. We have a free challenge we run once a month. And then I demand that if you invite and you add people to that, you lead in there. Like you don't get to just like piggyback and be a fly on the wall. You still have to show up, but you don't have to be the one that like opens the group and creates the template and all that stuff. We share that. So, and then I just really have been really careful about taking the word I out of anything I do. Like there's no I in any of this. And I've always had a we mentality, but I try to be really careful with just not like everything's a we, and like on every level. And I find that I'll still catch myself sometimes, but I think the we has really given every single person like a stake in this team goal together. And then I've seen for the first time, which I've prayed for years, I've seen the first time where they're setting bigger goals for themselves and they're really rallying around their own 5-star goals or their own growth goals. So, I mean, there's more I could say, but that's like that's kind of the boiled down essence of it. But the happiness advantage has really been all of it. Everything he says, I've tried to like implement and empower and instill in my team as much as possible. And they've owned that too. And we've just really had and I think me setting a big goal that I worked my butt off. Like I had to build another diamond for this, like, and it was hard. It was, I mean, okay, like it's from scratch. And I'm like, this is a hard season to build a diamond. And it gave me the empathy to the girls that we're building right now and maintaining that were kind of a bare bones diamond. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is hard. I'm scrapping for it. And then but it also made me wake up and be really accountable to this, but also stop, go hiking, go paddleboarding, go spend time with my family, be that person that I've said I wanted to create this life for, but yet I was just hiding from doing that because I was so, like, work was my escape. So what do you guys think?
Well, Jamie, thanks for sharing. I don't know if there's questions or any specifics that people want to ask. Your story has been really good. I actually have to go jump into a meeting with Jeff Hill. You guys, are there any questions or anything though? If you guys want to keep chatting, I'll let it go. But I also know we're nearing the hour.
Oh, you're welcome.
I apologize. I feel like I'm like, hey, talk, but I also have to go. But
no, it's okay. Sorry, I didn't realize we're in here.
How about this? No, we're. How about this? I'll stop the recording so that it's concise. And then if you guys want to continue any dialogue later, that you can do it here or use the thread. So, thank you.
You're welcome.